The orbital defense platform Sentinel-7 erupted in chaos as Commander Elena Rice sprinted through flashing red corridors. Warning klaxons screamed overhead, drowning out the frantic chatter of Earth defense personnel rushing to battle stations. Elena shouldered past a group of technical officers, their faces pale in the emergency lighting. "Status report." She barked into her comm unit as she rounded the corner toward the diplomatic wing. "Multiple Concordat vessels have breached our outer security perimeter," her XO responded, voice tight with tension. "They're demanding an emergency session with the Security Council. Commander, they're threatening military action." Earth's uneasy relationship with the Galactic Concordat had balanced on a knife's edge since first contact 8 years ago. Humanity's rapid technological advancement, transitioning from atmospheric flight to functional FTL drives in less than a century, had sent ripples of alarm through the elder races of the coalition. Too fast, they whispered in their various councils. Too unpredictable. Elena burst through the doors of the emergency comms chamber to find it already crowded with alien diplomats. The air reeked of unfamiliar biochemistry, the methane undertones of the Rex delegation, the ionized particles that surrounded the crystalline Teldari representatives. At the center of the gathering stood Ambassador Xisvan, his translucent tentacles trembling with barely contained rage. "The evidence is incontrovertible," the ambassador hissed, manipulating controls that projected a three-dimensional recreation of Saturn's rings above the conference table. "Observe." The holographic display showed a sleek Concordat science vessel gliding through the ice fragments of the outer rings. Then, without warning, a lance of energy, unmistakably bearing the signature radiation pattern of Earth's defense grid, sliced through the ship. The vessel disintegrated in silent, terrible beauty. "Humanity has violated the terms of their provisional membership," Xisvan continued, compound eyes reflecting the replay of destruction. "We demand immediate sanctions." Elena stepped forward, scrutinizing the footage with narrowed eyes. "That's impossible. Our weapons platforms maintain triple redundant authorization protocols. No Earth vessel fired on your ship. Are you suggesting we falsify this evidence?" The ambassador's voice dropped dangerously low, tendrils coiling in a gesture her implanted translator flagged as extreme aggression. "I'm suggesting we investigate before jumping to conclusions," Elena countered, fingers dancing across her neural interface pad. She accessed the defense grid's logs, scanning millisecond by millisecond through the incident timeframe. There, a microsecond before the energy beam appeared, a subtle fluctuation in the data packets. "Signal tampering." Elena opened her mouth to report her findings when her own government representative, Undersecretary Williams, stepped forward with raised hands. "The Earth Security Council wishes to express its deepest regrets for this tragic incident," Williams announced, not meeting Elena's incredulous stare. "While we investigate the apparent malfunction in our defense systems, we offer a gesture of cooperation." "Undersecretary," Elena hissed, gripping his arm. "There's evidence of external tampering with our—" "Commander Reyes," Williams cut her off, voice glacial. "You are dismissed." 3 hours later, Elena watched from the observation deck as 30 members of Earth's elite planetary crisis response team, the finest combat specialists humanity had ever produced, marched in formation toward the Concordat diplomatic vessel. Their expressions were stoic, disciplined, betraying nothing of the grim reality. They were hostages, sacrificed on the altar of interstellar politics. Among them walked Lieutenant Marcus Chen, her brother in all but blood, her second in command for 6 years of off-world missions. As the soldiers passed below her position, Elena pressed her palm against the transparent aluminum barrier. Marcus glanced up, a near imperceptible break in his perfect military bearing. Elena seized the moment, tapping her neural implant to initiate a directional burst transmission. A quantum-encrypted data chip materialized in the matter fabricator at her wrist. She flicked it down through the maintenance duct, watching as Marcus smoothly retrieved it without breaking stride. "Something's wrong with this whole situation," she subvocalized, knowing his enhanced hearing would pick up the words. The signal tampering signature doesn't match any known species. Trust no one. The ship's doors sealed with a pneumatic hiss, and Earth's finest warriors vanished into the stars under the watchful eyes of species who had feared humanity since first contact. Elena turned away from the viewport, a cold determination settling in her chest. She hadn't risen to command Earth's defense forces by accepting defeat. Whatever game was being played here, she would uncover it and bring her people home. The transport ship lurched out of hyperspace with a nauseating dimensional shift, and Lieutenant Marcus Chen slammed against his restraints. The inertial dampeners whined in protest, struggling to compensate for what appeared to be deliberate turbulence. Through the viewport, no Concordat detention facility awaited. Only the rust-colored atmosphere of an unknown world, its surface scarred with geometric excavation patterns visible even from orbit. "This isn't a Concordat facility," whispered Corporal Zoe Blackwood from the adjacent restraint couch. Her fingers tapped silently against her thigh. An old Earth military code they'd developed for covert communications. Trap. Prepare. The 30 members of the Planetary Crisis Response Team exchanged meaningful glances. They'd been prepared for detainment, questioning, even rough handling from Concordat security forces. But this was something else entirely. Their escort, 4 tall, spindly aliens supposedly from Concordat security, suddenly removed their helmets. The artificial atmosphere in the ship adjusted with a hiss, accommodating their native biochemistry. Beneath the standard-issue Concordat armor, they had scaled skin the color of burnished copper and vertical pupils that contracted to thin slits in the ship's lighting. Not Concordat species at all. Weapons check. Marcus vocalized through their squad's encrypted neural network. 30 status reports flooded his implant simultaneously. All negative. They'd been stripped of everything except their standard-issue uniforms before boarding. The ship descended through churning clouds of rusty particulates, settling onto a landing pad extending from a massive structure half buried in the planet's surface. The soldiers were marched through pressurized corridors excavated directly from the bedrock, the walls etched with glyphs that matched no known language in the Concordat database. They emerged into a vast, circular chamber dominated by a holographic display of the galaxy, certain sectors pulsing with an ominous red glow. At the center stood a towering figure, at least 8 feet tall, with obsidian scales glistening under the harsh lights. Cybernetic implants melded seamlessly into his skull and spine, pulsing with the same eerie red as the highlighted sectors. "Welcome to Nexus 9, the figure announced, voice resonating with unnatural harmonics. "I am Admiral Cthraxis of the Vexnar Imperium." A ripple of shock passed through the human ranks. The Vexnar were the stuff of archaeological records and historical texts, an ancient species supposedly exterminated during the Schism Wars over 2 millennia ago. Yet here stood their leader, very much alive, and apparently commanding significant resources. "Impossible," Sergeant Diana Walsh murmured. "The Vexnar were extinct before humanity achieved spaceflight. Extinction is merely a convenient fiction." Thraxis replied, his auditory receptors clearly more sensitive than they'd assumed. "One we have carefully maintained while observing the petty squabbles of the Concordat from the shadows." The Admiral gestured, and the holographic display zoomed in on Earth, rotating slowly with critical defense systems highlighted. "Your species interests us greatly," he continued, circling the assembled soldiers with predatory grace. "Your neural plasticity, adaptability, and aggression matrices are unique among sentients." With another gesture, the display shifted to show detailed schematics of human anatomy, annotated with horrifying modifications, cybernetic spine replacements, cranial implants, muscular enhancement frameworks. "While the Concordat fears your potential, we see opportunity," Cthraxis explained with clinical detachment. "Your people will make excellent additions to our Special Operations Division, once properly enhanced." Marcus's hand instinctively moved to his pocket, feeling the hard edges of Elena's data chip. Under cover of adjusting his stance, he carefully examined it, activating its microscopic display. It contained fragments of intercepted communications and confirmation of his worst fears. The Concordat Council had no record of this transfer. There had been no official handover protocol. They'd been betrayed twice over, surrendered by their own government to a power operating completely outside galactic law. The first soldier, Private Costa, was seized by 4 guards and dragged toward a waiting medical chamber bristling with surgical apparatus. As Costa's first screams echoed through the facility, Marcus caught Diana's eye across the room. Their silent communication conveyed what words couldn't. They might have been betrayed by 2 civilizations, but they'd damn well make both regret it. Marcus closed his fist around Alina's chip, already formulating the beginnings of a plan. The Vexnar wanted weapons. They would soon learn that weapons, once created, could be turned against their makers. Sergeant Diana Walsh's screams echoed through the surgical chamber as Vexnar machines pierced her skull and spine with glittering nanowire filaments. The restraints at her wrists and ankles strained against her involuntary convulsions. Through the haze of agony, she was dimly aware of the observation deck above, filled with scaled figures meticulously recording her responses. This was the 17th human to undergo the procedure. The previous 16 had survived, a fact that had visibly shocked the Vexnar scientists. From fragments of conversation Diana had overheard during her pre-op processing, she knew that similar procedures on other species had yielded catastrophic neural collapse in over 80% of subjects. Remarkable resilience in the pain response centers, noted Chief Scientist Mevrax, mandibles clicking in agitation as he studied the neural activity displays. Subject maintains consciousness despite stimulus levels that would induce coma in Traxian physiology. More interesting is this activity pattern, his assistant responded, highlighting a cascade of synaptic connections forming in Diana's visual cortex. The neural pathways are reconfiguring around our technology. They're not just accepting the implants, they're adapting them. The pain crested as the final series of filaments connected with her brainstem, and Diana's world exploded into fractals of data. Suddenly, she could perceive the Vexnar systems as tangible architectures in her mind. Feel their code like currents against her skin. The sensation was overwhelming, alien, yet somehow comprehensible. 3 days later, in the recovery bay where the enhanced soldiers were permitted to rest between training sessions, Diana lay motionless on her bunk. To the observation cameras, she appeared to be sleeping, but behind her closed eyelids, her consciousness was elsewhere. She had discovered, almost by accident, that she could project herself through the neural implants. The Vexnar had connected each modified soldier to their central system for monitoring purposes, creating an inadvertent pathway between the humans' enhanced minds. Marcus she called silently, extending her awareness along the artificial synapses that now interlaced her nervous system. "Can you hear me?" The response came not as words, but as a complex sensory impression: recognition, surprise, cautious excitement. Lieutenant Chen's consciousness touched hers across the digital void. "They've made a critical mistake," Diana continued, carefully masking their communication beneath the regular rhythms of brain activity the Vexnar monitored. "They're watching us physically, but they can't see inside our heads. The implants were designed for one-way control, but our brains are rewiring them for two-way communication." Over the next week, as the enhanced soldiers were subjected to increasingly demanding combat drills, Diana established connections with all 29 of her colleagues. Their shared neural network became their secret weapon, allowing instantaneous tactical coordination undetectable to their captors. Meanwhile, Corporal Zoe Blackwood, former Earth cybersecurity specialist, had made discoveries of her own. During the daily integration tests where the Vexnar calibrated their control systems, she had detected vulnerabilities in their quantum encryption. Their systems were designed to interface with more predictable neural architectures, she explained during one of their covert mental communions. Human brains are chaotic by comparison. Too much parallel processing. They're having to create workarounds, and each patch introduces new weaknesses. On the surface, the enhanced soldiers executed flawless combat maneuvers, performing exactly as their captors demanded. The Vexnar recorded video of their progress with evident satisfaction. Admiral Thraxis himself attended one demonstration, watching with gleaming eyes as the humans moved with inhuman speed and precision through holographic battle scenarios. What the Vexnar couldn't see was what happened when the humans returned to their barracks at night. In the darkness, their connected minds built a virtual war room where they tested the boundaries of their new abilities, pushing past limitations the Vexnar never anticipated. "They think they've turned us into perfect weapons," Marcus observed during one such session. "But they've actually given us the tools to become something unprecedented in the galaxy." Diana's consciousness brushed against his, conveying agreement. What the Vexnar had created was not 30 separate enhanced soldiers, but something entirely new, a hive mind that retained individual creativity and determination. A weapon, yes, but one with its own will. And that will was focused on a single purpose: liberation. Dropships howled through the crimson skies of Crixus Prime as the enhanced human soldiers descended in gleaming black combat suits. The planet's thin atmosphere vibrated with the sonic boom of their arrival, scattering the native avians from crystal formations that jutted like broken teeth from the rust-colored plains. Lieutenant Marcus Chen adjusted the sensitivity of his ocular implants as the craft banked sharply toward the designated landing zone. Through the viewport, the mining colony appeared as a chaotic sprawl of prefabricated structures and improvised barricades. His neural implants pulsed with incoming Vexnar battle commands, transmitted directly from Admiral Thraxis's command vessel in orbit. "Eliminate all resistance. No survivors." The orders scrolled across his enhanced vision in glowing Vexnar script, automatically translated by his neural interface. Marcus kept his expression carefully neutral, aware that Thraxis was monitoring their deployment through the soldiers' own sensory feeds. "Team Alpha in position," he reported through the official comms channel, voice modulated to betray no emotion. "Beginning assault on Rebel stronghold." The dropship's doors hissed open, and the first squad of enhanced humans moved with uncanny synchronization across the rocky terrain. Their bodies had been pushed beyond natural human limitations. Muscles density increased, reaction time halved, skeletal structure reinforced with carbon fiber lattices. To any observer, they appeared the perfect weapons. The mining colony below was a maze of makeshift barricades and desperate defenders, six-limbed Crixians wielding outdated weapons against their Vexnar oppressors. As Marcus's squad breached the perimeter, they encountered the first civilians, a family cowering behind an overturned mining cart, the adults shielding their crystalline-skinned offspring with their bodies. The Vexnar controller's voice barked through his implant. "Terminate. No exceptions." Instead, Marcus switched to the secure neural network Diana had created, his thoughts reaching his team instantaneously. New plan: maintain the appearance of combat, but target only defensive structures. Diana jammed their surveillance drones. Blackwood, prepare to establish contact. Through their shared mental link, the soldiers executed a convincing battle for the observation feeds. Weapons fired devastating empty buildings, explosions carefully choreographed to appear more destructive than they were. Meanwhile, Corporal Blackwood approached the Crixian family, her neural implants working furiously to decode their biochemical language markers. "We are not your enemy," she transmitted in rudimentary Crixian harmonic patterns. "We seek contact with your resistance leader." Hours later, under cover of a manufactured electromagnetic storm that Diana had created to disrupt Vexnar surveillance, Marcus stood in an underground chamber with Salaka, the leader of the Crixian resistance. The alien's crystalline growths pulsed with bioluminescence as he unfolded ancient data tablets before the human soldiers. "Your masters have preyed upon our people for generations," Salaka explained through Blackwood's translation matrix. "They take our resources, our young, and leave only suffering." Through stolen moments of conversation and secretly shared data, a horrifying truth emerged. The Vexnar had been engineering conflicts across the galaxy for centuries, manipulating species against each other while remaining hidden in the shadows. They were behind the Rimworld massacres, Salaka revealed, projecting historical records that matched fragments in Earth's own archives. And the Concordat border disputes, all of it, orchestrated to weaken potential rivals. Marcus felt a cold fury building as the implications became clear. The incident that had led to their surrender, the destroyed Concordat vessel near Saturn, had almost certainly been a Vexnar operation, designed to remove Earth's most elite soldiers from the playing field. Under the cover of nighttime operations, Corporal Blackwood reproposed a quantum transmitter, disguising critical intelligence within routine mission reports. The data packets would appear as standard telemetry to Vexnar monitoring systems, but contained encrypted messages that only Commander Reyes would recognize. Back on Earth, Elena Reyes received the first fragments of code hidden in mission static, evidence that would shatter the Concordat's complacency, if only she could piece it together in time. Meanwhile, the Crixians shared rumors that chilled Marcus to his core, whispers of other modified warriors, other species subjected to the same procedures as the humans. Their deployment on Crixus Prime wasn't merely a test of their capabilities. It was a dress rehearsal for something much larger. As dawn broke over the mining colony, Lieutenant Chen gazed toward the horizon, where the Vexnar command base loomed. His enhanced vision could detect the facility's defense grid, the patrol patterns of sentinel drones. His modified mind calculated 47 potential infiltration routes with corresponding probability of success. But first, they needed more information, more allies, more time. The Vexnar had created the perfect infiltration unit, and now that unit was turning its skills against its creators. The hunt had begun. "We need to go deeper," Lieutenant Chen told his team as they secured the upper levels of the Nexus 9 facility. The enhanced soldiers had established control over the primary systems, locked down the remaining Vexnar personnel, and established a defensive perimeter. But something nagged at Marcus's enhanced intuition. The facility's power consumption readings didn't match the visible infrastructure. "The schematics Diana pulled from their network shows something massive beneath us," he continued, studying the holographic projection hovering before them. "These power conduits, they're routing enormous energy downward." Corporal Blackwood analyzed the data through her implants. The energy signatures suggest stasis technology, large-scale preservation systems. The squad descended through restricted access elevators, their enhanced senses detecting subtle changes in atmospheric pressure and gravitational variance as they dropped deeper into the planet. The facility shouldn't extend this far down. The readings suggested they were approaching planetary core depths. Structural reinforcement at these levels would require technology beyond anything in the Concordat database, observed Sergeant Walsh, her fingers tracing the strange alloys in the elevator walls. "This metal, it's absorbing vibrations, dampening energy signatures." The doors opened onto a nightmarish panorama that stole their breath away, a vast underground chamber stretching beyond sight, illuminated by the eerie glow of thousands of suspension pods. Each transparent capsule contained a modified warrior, reptilian Sarfex with cybernetic limb enhancements, crystalline Teldari, whose bodies pulse with artificial energy matrices, even members of elder Concordat races whose physiologies had been previously deemed too fragile for modification. "God's mercy," whispered Blackwood as her implants interfaced with the facility's database, information flooding her enhanced mind. "There are nearly 20,000 modified soldiers here. Combat ready, waiting for activation." Strategic deployment maps flashed across the squad's shared neural space, simultaneously transmitted from Blackwood's interface to all 30 enhanced humans. The maps showed coordinated attacks on key Concordat worlds, resource centers, military installations, a galaxy-wide offensive designed to cripple any resistance before it could form. This isn't just an isolated black operation, Chen realized, the full horror of the discovery washing over him. It's the opening move of a galactic coup. The Vexnar weren't creating a security force. They were building an invasion army. The team moved carefully through the forest of stasis pods, securing the chamber's control centers. While interfacing with the stasis systems, Diana made an unexpected discovery. The neural signatures of the imprisoned warriors still flickered with consciousness. Their bodies slept in suspended animation, but their minds remained partially active in a shared dream space, trapped in an artificial mental prison. "I can reach them," she said, her eyes unfocusing as she extended her consciousness into the stasis network. The Vexnar have kept them in a semi-conscious state to prevent neural degradation. They're aware on some level. The enhanced humans gathered around Diana as she became a bridge between species that had never truly communicated before. Through her neural implants, she established contact with the imprisoned minds, transmitting images, emotions, and simplified concepts that transcended linguistic barriers. "So much suffering," she whispered, tears streaming down her face as the collective trauma of thousands flowed through her. "But also, hope. They recognize what we're doing. They want freedom." With trembling hands, Diana initiated the revival sequence for a single Sarfex warrior, a reptilian humanoid whose body had been enhanced with weaponized limb prosthetics. The stasis field shimmered and dissolved, and the massive alien fell forward as the pod opened. The humans tensed, weapons ready. The Sarfex warrior could easily tear through human flesh with his razor-clawed hands. Instead, after a moment of disorientation, he looked directly at Chen and extended his arm in a gesture unmistakable across species boundaries, an offer of alliance. "He understands," Diana translated from the emotional impressions flowing through their neural link. "He knows we've all been used, violated, transformed against our will." Chen clasped forearms with the Sarfex, feeling the alien's strength and the delicate control with which he moderated it, careful not to harm his human liberator. Similar scenes unfolded throughout the chamber as the humans systematically awakened representatives from each species, establishing a rudimentary communication network through their shared neural enhancements. What the Vexnar had never anticipated was that the very modifications they had forced upon their victims would become the foundation for an unprecedented coalition. A union of species that should have been impossible across such diverse biology and cultures, united by shared trauma and a common enemy. The instrument of the Vexnar's planned domination was becoming the seed of their destruction. "We need to go deeper," Lieutenant Chen told his team as they secured the upper levels of the Nexus 9 facility. The enhanced soldiers had established control over the primary systems, locked down the remaining Vexnar personnel, and established a defensive perimeter. But something nagged at Marcus's enhanced intuition. The facility's power consumption readings didn't match the visible infrastructure. "The schematics Diana pulled from their network show something massive beneath us," he continued, studying the holographic projection hovering before them. "These power conduits, they're routing enormous energy downward." Corporal Blackwood analyzed the data through her implants. The energy signatures suggest stasis technology, large-scale preservation systems. Her eyes widened as calculations stringed through her consciousness. Whatever's down there is drawing power equivalent to maintaining a small city. The squad descended through restricted access elevators, their enhanced senses detecting subtle changes in atmospheric pressure and gravitational variance as they dropped deeper into the planet. The facility shouldn't extend this far down. The readings suggested they were approaching planetary core depths. Structural reinforcement at these levels would require technology beyond anything in the Concordat database, observed Sergeant Walsh, her fingers tracing the strange alloys in the elevator walls. "This metal, it's absorbing vibrations, dampening energy signatures. It's almost like they wanted to ensure nothing down here could be detected from orbit." The elevator slowed, compensating for the increasing pressure. Private Rodriguez, their weapons specialist, distributed the captured Vexnar pulse rifles. "I've recalibrated these to respond to our neural signatures," he explained. "The targeting systems now interface directly with our ocular implants." The doors opened onto a nightmarish panorama that stole their breath away. A vast underground chamber stretching beyond sight, illuminated by the eerie glow of thousands of suspension pods. Each transparent capsule contained a modified warrior. Reptilian Sarfex with cybernetic limb enhancements, crystalline Teldari whose bodies pulse with artificial energy matrices, even members of elder Concordat races whose physiologies had been previously deemed too fragile for modification. God's mercy, whispered Blackwood as her implants interfaced with the facility's database, information flooding her enhanced mind. There are nearly 20,000 modified soldiers here, combat ready, waiting for activation. Each one enhanced like us, but with species-specific modifications optimized for their natural abilities. Strategic deployment maps flashed across the squad's shared neural space, simultaneously transmitted from Blackwood's interface to all 30 enhanced humans. The maps showed coordinated attacks on key Concordat worlds, resource centers, military installations, a galaxy-wide offensive designed to cripple any resistance before it could form. This isn't just an isolated black operation. Chen realized, the full horror of the discovery washing over him. It's the opening move of a galactic coup. The Vexnar weren't creating a security force. They were building an invasion army. The team moved carefully through the forest of stasis pods, securing the chamber's control centers. While interfacing with the stasis systems, Diana made an unexpected discovery. The neural signatures of the imprisoned warriors still flickered with consciousness. Their bodies slept in suspended animation, but their minds remained partially active in a shared dream space, trapped in an artificial mental prison. "I can reach them," she said, her eyes unfocusing as she extended her consciousness into the stasis network. The Vexnar have kept them in a semi-conscious state to prevent neural degradation. They're aware, on some level, dreaming collectively. She winced, her face contorting with empathetic pain. Some have been here for decades, their minds trapped while their bodies were weaponized. The enhanced humans gathered around Diana, as she became a bridge between species that had never truly communicated before. Through her neural implants, she established contact with the imprisoned minds, transmitting images, emotions, and simplified concepts that transcended linguistic barriers. "So much suffering," she whispered, tears streaming down her face as the collective trauma of thousands flowed through her. "But also, hope. They recognize what we're doing. They want freedom." With trembling hands, Diana initiated the revival sequence for a single Sarfex warrior, a reptilian humanoid whose body had been enhanced with weaponized limb prosthetics. The stasis field shimmered and dissolved, and the massive alien fell forward as the pod opened. The humans tensed, weapons ready. The Sarfex warrior could easily tear through human flesh with his razor-clawed hands. Instead, after a moment of disorientation, he looked directly at Chen and extended his arm in a gesture unmistakable across species boundaries, an offer of alliance. "He understands," Diana translated from the emotional impressions flowing through their neural link. "He knows we've all been used, violated, transformed against our will." Chen clasped forearms with the Sarfex, feeling the alien's strength and the delicate control with which he moderated it, careful not to harm his human liberator. Similar scenes unfolded throughout the chamber as the humans systematically awakened representatives from each species, establishing a rudimentary communication network through their shared neural enhancements. What the Vexnar had never anticipated was that the very modifications they had forced upon their victims would become the foundation for an unprecedented coalition, a union of species that should have been impossible across such diverse biology and cultures, united by shared trauma and a common enemy. "We need to contact Commander Reyes," Marcus decided, watching as Diana helped a disoriented Teldari adjust to its newly awakened state. "The Concordat needs to know the full scale of this, and we need to move quickly. Once K. Thraxis realizes what we've discovered here, he'll activate contingency plans." Corporal Blackwood's neural implants flashed a warning. "Too late," she reported grimly. I've detected encrypted transmissions leaving the facility during our assault. Long-range signals directed to multiple locations across the sector. The instrument of the Vexnar's planned domination was becoming the seed of their destruction. But the clock was now ticking toward a galactic conflict that would dwarf anything in recorded history. The Concordat warship Indomitable dropped out of hyperspace near Nexus 9, its sleek hull gleaming in the light of the system's binary stars. On the bridge, Commander Reyes stood alongside representatives from a dozen worlds affected by the Vexnar conspiracy. The emergency session of the Concordat Council had moved with unprecedented speed, authorizing a joint strike force once the full extent of the Vexnar threat became clear. Approaching optimal communication range, announced the Teldari navigation officer, crystalline appendages manipulating the ship's controls with delicate precision. The quantum-encrypted transmission from Lieutenant Chen appeared on the main display, showing not just the human soldiers but representatives from 7 different modified species gathered in the captured Vexnar Command Center, a sight unprecedented in galactic history. "We have control of the facility and its communication array," Chen reported, his enhanced features visible even through the slight distortion of the transmission. "But we've detected activation signals sent to 17 additional Vexnar bases throughout the sector, each with their own contingent of modified warriors. They're implementing some kind of contingency protocol." The strategic challenge seemed insurmountable. The Lena studied the tactical display with a growing sense of dread. The Vexnar installations were too dispersed for conventional military strikes, and time was critically short. Sergeant Walsh stepped into view beside Chen, her neural implants pulsing with blue light. "Commander, we've discovered something about our modifications that changes everything." The Vexnar designed each species' enhancements to complement the others in battle formations, but they never anticipated we would communicate as equals. What followed was a war council unlike any before, Diana's neural interface linking the consciousness of Teldari strategists, Sarfex shock troops, and nimble phasic infiltrators into a unified battle network. Species who couldn't physiologically speak to one another shared thoughts and tactical insights instantaneously through the human conduits. The Vexnar considered empathy a fatal weakness, Diana explained to the astonished Concordat representatives. Her voice remained steady despite the strain of maintaining neural connections across species boundaries. "They designed us to be controlled separately, never realizing that by understanding each other's pain, we'd forge something stronger than their programming." Elena watched in amazement as tactical plans formed in real time, the diverse species combining their unique perspectives and strengths. "We'll need to coordinate the Concordat fleet with ground operations," she said. "Simultaneous strikes on all Vexnar installations before they can activate their remaining forces." The liberation began within hours, synchronized strikes on Vexnar bases across the sector, each led by mixed teams of enhanced warriors moving with uncanny coordination. The Vexnar, masters of long-term manipulation, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. On the isolated moon base Targus 3, Admiral Cthraxis watched tactical displays with mounting horror as his secret empire crumbled. Centuries of careful planning, of patient manipulation from the shadows, undone in days by the very weapons he had created. "Impossible," he hissed, mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. The psychometric profiles of all subject species indicated zero probability of cross-species neural compatibility. "They're not just cooperating," his lieutenant observed with growing dread. "They're becoming something new. The human neural architecture, it's serving as a bridge between incompatible systems." In the assault on the Vexnar weapons facility orbiting Proxima Delta, Marcus led a team of human and Sarfex warriors, their enhanced bodies moving with fluid grace through the station's corridors. Their formerly incompatible neural implants now synchronized through modifications Diana had designed, allowing them to function as a single tactical unit. "Western Junction secured," reported a Sarfex soldier, the translator implant rendering his sibilant speech into standard Concordat language. The human strategy worked perfectly. The coldly logical Vexnar commander could not comprehend how warriors from incompatible evolutionary backgrounds fought with such seamless unity. His species had calculated every variable, mapped every possibility, except this unprecedented cooperation. On the Indomitable, Alina received reports of victory after victory. The Vexnar network was unraveling, their carefully constructed shadow empire exposed to the light after millennia of darkness. But one critical threat remained: Thraxis himself, who had disappeared from Targus 3 before it fell, taking with him the command codes for a massive warship hidden in deep space. Commander, Marcus reported through their secure channel, his expression grim. We've intercepted fragmentary transmissions. Thraxis is activating something called Protocol Terminus. Coordinates point to Earth. Alina felt ice form in her veins. The final confrontation was about to begin, and humanity's homeworld hung in the balance. The Vexnar command vessel Inexorable emerged from deep space at the edge of Sol system, its massive hull bristling with weapons never before seen in Concordat territory. Larger than any warship in known space, the vessel represented the culmination of centuries of hidden technological development. Admiral Thraxis stood on the bridge, his exoskeleton interfaced directly with the ship's systems. Around him, the last loyal members of his once mighty shadow empire prepared for a final devastating assault. If we cannot rule the galaxy, his transmission echoed across Concordat channels, then humanity's homeworld will be the first to burn for their interference. The response came not from Earth's defense fleet, but from a patchwork armada of ships piloted by the liberated enhanced warriors. Their vessels moved in formations that defied conventional tactics, human adaptability blended with Sarfex aggression, and Teldari precision. At their center, the Concordat flagship Indomitable coordinated the desperate defense. Target their propulsion systems first, Commander Reyes ordered, studying the holographic battle display. Keep them at maximum engagement distance from Earth. Lieutenant Chen led the boarding operation, a desperate gambit made possible only by the enhanced capabilities of the modified warriors. Their assault craft, cloaked with technology derived from phasic biocamouflage, slipped through the Inexorable's defensive screen during the main battle. "We're on board," Marcus reported through their secure channel. Proceeding to primary objective. The battle for the Inexorable became a desperate room-by-room struggle as the boarding parties breached the massive warship. Enhanced humans fought alongside their alien counterparts, Marcus directing the assault while Sergeant Walsh, surrounded by a protective circle of warriors, extended her consciousness into the Vexnar ship systems. Their neural architecture is ancient, she reported through the shared mental network. Her consciousness stretched to its limits as she navigated alien code structures. Powerful, but rigid, like a fortress with no windows. I'm finding backdoors through the compatibility protocols they built for controlling our implants. In the command center, Chen confronted Admiral Thraxis as Diana systematically shut down the ship's weapon systems. The Admiral's exoskeleton crackled with energy as he towered over the human auxiliary limbs deploying with built-in weaponry. "Impossible," Thraxis hissed, mandibles clicking in agitation. "Our models predicted every variable. Your neurology was mapped to perfection. Your species' psychological profile indicated compliance under trauma. How did you overcome a perfect system?" Chen smiled, blood trickling from where his enhanced strength had pushed his human body to its limits. The battle had taken its toll. A cybernetic arm hung damaged at his side, and his tactical display showed casualties among his team. But they had reached their objective. "You built us to be weapons," he said, voice steady despite his injuries, "but forgot we remain human. Our strength was never in our individual capabilities, but in what we become together." As Diana completed the system's override, the massive weapons platforms targeting Earth powered down. Throughout the vessel, the enhanced warriors secured critical systems, neutralizing the final Vexnar threat. 3 months later, Commander Reyes stood before the reformed Concordat Council, The chamber now expanded to include representatives from species previously deemed too primitive for inclusion. The Vexnar conspiracy had been fully exposed, their millennia-long manipulation laid bare. The enhanced warriors, human and alien alike, presented a unique challenge. They could not be simply reintegrated into their societies. Their modifications and shared experiences had transformed them into something new. These soldiers were meant to be the galaxy's downfall, Elena argued, presenting her proposal to the assembled representatives. Let them instead become its guardians. The Crisis Protocol Initiative was born, an independent peacekeeping force comprised of the enhanced warriors, commissioned to intervene in situations beyond conventional military capability. Their base became the repurposed Nexus 9 facility, transformed from a site of trauma to a symbol of unprecedented cooperation. As Commander Reyes watched her brother Marcus train alongside warriors from a dozen worlds, she reflected that humanity's true gift to the galaxy was not their technology or even their resilience, but something more fundamental: the ability to forge connection from conflict, to transform enemies into allies, and to see opportunity in crisis. The Vexnar believed separate species could never truly unite, she noted in her inaugural address to the new force. They were wrong. Where they saw only weapons, we discovered a new kind of peace.